I am Brett Pape. That's Coach Bruce, and this is the Sunday Coach Approach. Coach, how are you this morning?
Fantastic, man. Nothing like watching the two of us do some dancing while we're on the little break there.
There you go. There you go. Hey, I know you were a little stressed out before the show went on. Everybody at this time is making sure their YouTube TV is working. We got 15 football games today. Let's jump right into it. So our start sit show we talked about this prior to the going on live, and is that start sit are kind of tricky because we don't know if we're talking about one quarterback league. Sometimes we don't know if we're talking about simple 8-man rosters where you're looking at just two receivers, two running backs, a tight end, an old school kicker and defense, or if you're talking about super flex. So we do the best that we can, not knowing all the rosters and so forth, but let's jump right into it. Let's go right to Cincinnati Bengals at Cleveland Browns. Before we get into start and sit, let's get who you think is going to win this game, Coach.
So I've got Cincinnati Bengals 25-17.
I like it. I'm not that much different. I feel like Cincinnati's going to put a couple more points on the board, as is Cleveland. So I have Cincinnati 31, Cleveland 21. That means, Cleveland 24. I apologize. So that means you are for the under, with the under, the point total is 47.5. You've got the under. I'll take the over. Let's jump right into start and sit for both teams. Cleveland Browns. Man, listen up. Everyone's excited about this offense. They're hoping. We're not going to get into all the turmoil related to Deshaun Watson, but let's just talk about him on the field. Didn't really look that great when he came back last year for the last 5 games of the year. He's now had a complete offseason. So my point is I like their offense. I like what they have with Nick Chubb and Amari Cooper. So I'm starting Watson. I'm starting Cooper. I'm starting Nick Chubb. And a tight end, with all the issues this week, I think if you have a David Njoku, you got to start him. Other side of the ball, Cincinnati. This is a great fantasy football type team as skilled guys all around the field that you want to roster. So I'm going with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon, T. Higgins. Sits for me until I find out if Elijah Moore is good or not. And, with the issues he had with the Jets, didn't really get to see it on the field. Excited about what we heard in the offseason, but I'm going to kind of take a wait and see approach with Elijah Moore. And I'm also going to sit Irv Smith for Cincinnati if I have him. Another one of these. There's just a lot of mouths to feed on that team. And Irv Smith, new system, kind of wait and see with him as well. Moving on, Houston Texans at Baltimore Ravens. My prediction in this game, I've got Baltimore winning 38-17. Coach, who do you like in this game, and who do you like in the starting sits?
I think this is a fun game. C.J. Stroud's pro debut, right? I've got Baltimore Ravens 31, Texans 13. The spread on FanDuel is at -9.5. I have Baltimore to cover. I know it's difficult when you get in a 10-point spread. You get close to that. It was 10 as of yesterday. Woke up this morning, the spread was down to 9.5, but I'm still taking Baltimore to cover the points there. And so that's obviously the over in that game. As far as starts go, I like tight end 12 this week is Dalton Schultz. And then I like Nico Collins. The Ravens are not very good in the secondary. Marlon Humphreys now with foot surgery is out. That leaves you Rocky Sin, Brandon Stevens. There's a mix there at corner. I think they're going to be able to attack the edges there. And I like Dalton Schultz, a security blanket for C.J. Stroud in his first start. So those are my 2 guys for Houston that I like this week. For Baltimore, Lamar Jackson, J.K. Dobbins, and Isaiah Likely. It looks like Mark Andrews is definitely going to be out. If he is out, then you're going to play Isaiah Likely. I think that's a quick plug-in. That's an easy play there. Todd Monken brings the spread offense to Baltimore. So it's going to be interesting to see if they get out in front early. I think you'll see a lot of J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards. But at the same time, if they keep this game close, they've got to put points on the board. It's going to be interesting to see what that target distribution is with Rashad Bateman and Zay Flowers. And, of course, if Andrews is out, likely what his involvement is. So I'm not starting any of those wide receivers as a must start, only because I don't know what that's going to look like. I expect Baltimore to get out in front early, and I think it's going to be a lot of ground and pound. Not that you're not going to see Lamar Jackson throw the ball a little bit, but I feel comfortable with those guys as starters. On the other side, as far as sits go, I've got Dameon Pierce. This is not a good matchup for him. He's RB23 going in this week. Ravens were second against the run in DVOA last year since they added Roquan Smith. I think that trend continues. However, he is a volume play. There is an opportunity there for him to see some passing work too. So again, depending on your roster size, where you drafted Dameon Pierce, dynasty versus redraft. Redraft, you probably got him as your RB1 or 2, so you're probably going to have to start him. But in dynasty, you can have stacked rosters, so you might have some better options there. Houston, to sit, Tank Dell, John Mechie, Noah Brown, Robert Woods. Basically, any pass catcher outside of Dalton Schultz and Nico Collins, I'm sitting in this one. So, and as far as Baltimore, who I'm sitting, there's not really anybody that I'm sitting that I would say, hey, I'm not playing him. Again, if you have Zay Flowers, if you have Rashad Bateman, if you have Odell Beckham, I would probably say of those three is the one, hey, I want to see how that knee is. He didn't play last year. I want to kind of see what that looks like before I plug him in. So he's probably the only definite sit that I have for Baltimore. I think depending on your roster, Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman. A lot of people, I think, sleeping on Rashad Bateman. I think Rashad Bateman's going to have a better year than people think. So, he should be their wide receiver one in this group. So that's where I'm at with that game, and I think Baltimore runs away with this one.
I agree with Bateman. I'll tell you, with Bateman, it goes back to what I said about Elijah Moore. He's had injury issues the first few years in the NFL. Haven't really been able to see exactly what his first round talent is on the football field because of those injuries. He's supposed to be healthy now. I know that there was some good reports coming out that Harbaugh was excited about his prospects. So I'm really interested to see with that. But I agree with you. I'm probably going to have to take a wait-see approach for anybody catching the ball not named Andrews, and with him being out, so probably just likely for me as well. Moving on, Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Minnesota Vikings. Coach, who do you like in this game?
I've got Minnesota Vikings 27-13. I think you've got Kirk Cousins now has been established in that system. I'm a big Kevin O'Connell fan. You know that. We talked about him a lot going into last season. We saw what he did with Justin Jefferson. Adam Thielen is now out. You plug in Jordan Addison, who we're both high on, and I think KJ Osborne came on late last year. So I think Minnesota is just too much for Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I agree with that, but let's move on to let me give you my pick real quick. Minnesota 31, Tampa Bay 20. I like Tampa Bay find their way in the end zone a little more than you do, and that's partially because Minnesota didn't do much on that side of the ball during the offseason. So, and they kind of struggled defensively. Yeah. So I like Tampa Bay scoring a little more. Starting sit for Minnesota. I'm starting Kirk. I'm starting Jefferson. I'm starting Hawkinson. I'm also starting Madison. Everyone's been talking about Ty Chandler. I think Ty Chandler is a great handcuff, but it's Madison only for me as far as in the backfield for week one. Other side of the ball, I like Chris Godwin. I like Rachaad White. I don't like Baker simply because he's pretty down on the list of quarterbacks that you would start. And I also don't like Mike Evans this week. The only reason why is he didn't get the new contract. Not sure exactly where he's going to be as far as happy about playing. And other side of the ball, I love Jordan Addison, the player, but this is going to be kind of a theme of the day and kind of take a wait and see approach with a rookie.
Yep.
So I'm not starting Jordan this week. Moving on, next game, we've got the Carolina Panthers at the Atlanta Falcons. I've got the Falcons winning 28-24. Coach, who do you like to win, and who are your starting sits in this one?
So I've got Atlanta Falcons 23, Panthers 17. I think this is a good matchup. I think they keep this game close. I think the loss of Brian Burns in Carolina is going to be a tough deal to overcome. So I've got Atlanta with Arthur Smith's ground and pound mentality. I think the Falcons run away with this one and win this one. So the spread's at 3.5. Obviously, you know where I stand there. I've got him on the over. As far as starts go, Bijan Robinson, I think he's going to see a lot of volume. I think you're going to see him at 300 plus touches this year. They're going to wear him out. I like Drake London as wide receiver 21 coming in this week. And I think if you drafted Kyle Pitts, you're playing Kyle Pitts. He's tight end 7 this week on Fantasy Pros consensus rankings. I still believe in him. A phenomenal prospect coming out. Almost broke Mike Ditka's rookie record with receiving yards, over 1,000 yards his rookie season. Obviously fell off last year with Marcus Mariota and the circus that was Arthur Smith last year in terms of the passing game. And what he can do is run the ball extremely well. But those are 3 guys I think that are starts for Atlanta. For Carolina, I've got Miles Sanders. Look, there's nobody else. That wide receiver core is banged up. I don't love anybody on the pass catching side of that. Just Bryce Young's rookie debut. I'll take Miles Sanders. I think he's relevant in the passing game as well as the running game. And I'm looking at 80-plus yards, and I can find the end zone. DJ Chark has been ruled out. Adam Thielen was questionable going into this show this morning. Not sure where that stands right now. Could bode well for Hayden Hurst. Would not be surprised to see Jonathan Mingo make an impact in this game as well if that's the case, if both those guys are out. So as far as sits go, Cordell Patterson, Tyler Algier, I just think that Bijan Robinson dominates the touches. Algier could get you a touchdown in a goal line situation, but I just think that it's all Bijan Robinson. I'm not comfortable playing anybody else in that backfield. And in the wide receiver room, Matt Collins, Kaderil Hodge, it's Josh Ali. It's a hodgepodge of wide receivers after Drake London. And then Carolina, I've got Terrace Marshall, LaVisca Chenault, Chuba Hubbard. Don't trust any of those guys. So, again, I'm only starting Miles Sanders.
Hey, you brought up one guy that I'm interested in watching today, and you talk about all the wide receivers that have been ruled out by Carolina. I myself am also excited about Jonathan Mingo.
Absolutely.
Use high draft capital on him, another receiver out of Mississippi. You look at the pedigree out of that school over the last few years. So I'm looking forward to see what we see from him. But like you, I'd also sit him. I'm not ready quite to put him in yet. Let's move on to Arizona Cardinals, Washington Commanders. Coach, you want to take this one? Type in an answer. We've got Antonio Gibson or Breece Hall. It's Breece Hall for me. Yes, I'm a little worried about what it's going to look like week one, but I do trust him more than Antonio Gibson. Feel like Brian Robinson's the guy that you really want to play in Washington. So let's move on. Arizona Cardinals at Washington Commanders. I got the Commanders winning 31-3. I don't see it being close. Feel like Arizona Cardinals is definitely a team that's looking to kind of accumulate as many losses as possible to get a high-quality draft pick next year. What about you, Coach?
Yeah, I've got Washington Commanders 24-9. I think the Cardinals right now, the quarterback situation with Kyler Murray obviously being out, Josh Dobbs being brought in late, has been named the starter. Yes, he's familiar with the offense, but he's only had a couple weeks to really work with the receiver group there and get some work in. So don't expect much out of that offense whatsoever. So I've got Washington 24-9.
There you go, Coach. Let's move on to start and sits for this game. For starts for Washington, I mentioned a few minutes ago with the Antonio Gibson. I like Brian Robinson. I feel like he's going to have the bulk of the carries, and I feel like he's going to get in the end zone one or two times against that defense. I also really like Jahan Dotson this week. You've had Terry McLaurin hurt the last few weeks. Not sure what his role is going to be. So I'm going with Dotson. And I like Sam Howell. I feel like this is going to be a great day for the offense and for Washington. And I think Sam Howell goes out and performs well. For Arizona, the only start I have is James Conner. Feel like that's going to be a theme throughout the year. Until anything changes there, I wouldn't be comfortable playing anybody but James Conner. Washington sits. I don't like Logan Thomas in this matchup. He's been a little bit banged up, and I don't like Terry McLaurin. Obviously, if you have to play Scary Terry, you're going to hope that toe is not causing much issues. And for Arizona, I'm sitting everybody not named James Conner. Moving on, next game. I'm really
not even Marquise Brown, huh? You're off on Marquise Brown? Yeah.
I'm a little banged up.
I'm out on him too. Yeah, I'm on the same page as you.
Let's move on. Jacksonville Jaguars at Indianapolis Colts. I've got Jacksonville winning 35-14. How goes you, Coach?
I goes Jacksonville 27, Colts 13. I think we're both of us. I know we're real high on Trevor Lawrence this year. We like ETN. We like Bigsby, as the handcuff there. And, of course, what they've done with that wide receiver room, so in the tight end room. The spread is Jacksonville -4.5. Obviously, we're taking Jacksonville there, and then I've got them under. I know you've got some teams scoring more points than I do, and I think that's the tough part going into week one, right? Is typically defenses are ahead of offenses, right? And we know as former coaches, when you're going into Skelly and you're going in 11 on 11 and those things during practice, it seems like the defense always is ahead of the offense. But so I kind of expect that in the NFL in week one. Offense kind of trying to figure it out. But as far as starts go for Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence, I'm real high on him this year. I think he's got top 5 potential. Travis Etienne this week, I still think he dominates the touches there. Yes, Bigsby's going to get some run if the game gets away. You could see Bigsby get some nice crunch time fantasy points towards the end of the game. I love Calvin Ridley. I love Christian Kirk, and I like Evan Ingram. So it's like everybody on Jacksonville is in play. Again, depending on your roster construction and what you have on your roster, but those are guys I like. Zay Jones, I think it's worth noting, Zay Jones in the preseason has been lining up as a wide receiver 2 in 2 receiver sets, not Christian Kirk. However, Christian Kirk had a great year last year. He earned every bit of that money on that contract. A lot of us thought he was overpaid, so I still think Christian Kirk in 11 personnel is going to see some touches in the middle of the field. For Indianapolis, Anthony Richardson is the only one that I feel comfortable playing. It's not the potential passing upside, even in a negative game script. I think they're going to have to throw the football more than people want. But the mobility as a quarterback makes him a must start, in my opinion. If you can get 60, 70 rushing yards, he can sneak into the end zone. That makes him a play right there. That gets you 11 to 15 points at the quarterback position. As far as sits go, Jacksonville, nobody's out of play here. Nobody for me. All depends on your roster size. And both Zay and Tank Bigsby have potential upside there, especially late in the game. So hopefully, if you went zero running back, you got to Bigsby late. Maybe he's your RB2 because that's just the way you chose to do it. You want to stack every other position. Maybe he's got to be a guy that's in play, but he's not a must sit for me. For Indianapolis, Colts backfield, I don't trust anybody in that backfield. It's a running back by committee approach. I know Deion Jackson had some times last year where he flashed. You've got Evan Hull. We've talked about him out of Northwestern on previous shows, and you got Jake Funk as the RB3 with Moss out. It doesn't look good. So I don't trust anybody in that backfield. I don't trust – if you're going to play a pass catcher, I think the sneaky player is not Michael Pittman. I think it's Alec Pierce. But we're going to see how that plays out. I'm not starting any of those guys with confidence, but I think as a dart throw in deeper leagues, I think I like Alec Pierce here if I had to take a wide receiver with Indianapolis. But again, I'm not starting any of those guys.
I like it. I'm kind of agreeing with you as far as that Indianapolis offense. We got to see a little bit before we feel comfortable doing much with them. Let's move on. San Francisco 49ers at the Pittsburgh Steelers. I've got San Francisco winning 24-17. I believe this is the first game we have different. Coach, what do you got?
Yeah. So I've actually got, it's funny, that's the score you picked because we have not, so just so people know, we have not looked at each other's sheet. I mean, I've got Pittsburgh, same exact score, but I got Pittsburgh with the upset 24-17 playing at home. Look, it's a Mike Tomlin coach team. George Pickens now has had a full off season. He's flashed. Deontay Johnson is going to get you 100 plus targets this year, and he's going to find the end zone, I think 6-7 times this year. And then you've got Pat Freiermuth, who I think came on as a rookie last year. So I like this offense, even against this stacked San Francisco defense. I do think there are some holes that Kenny Pickett, this receiving group, is going to try to exploit in this game. I just think it's a shocker. I think Pittsburgh upset San Francisco 24-17.
All right. Hey, let's get into the start and sits for this game. And we talk about both sides of the ball having pretty good defenses. That's why I have a few guys sitting more than normal in this game. But San Francisco must starts for me are Christian McCaffrey and Brandon Ayuk. Obviously, you know what you're getting with McCaffrey. And with Ayuk, I feel like he is the number one receiver in that offense. And I feel like at some point today, we're going to get some big plays out of him. For Pittsburgh, I like Deontay Johnson and I like Najee Harris. I like Deontay because I feel like that San Francisco defense, pretty damn stout up front. You got their guy Bosa back this week, so I feel like they're going to be looking more at the short and intermediate stuff. I don't know if I don't know if Pickens is going to get let loose quite as much against this defense. So that's why I only have Deontay Johnson as a receiver that I'm starting. Sits for San Francisco. I don't like Deebo Samuel. I don't like Purdy. I don't like Kittle. I don't like Pickens. I don't like Pickett. And I don't like Freiermuth. That's all based off of the defenses they're facing. Obviously, we've already talked about it numerous times. It could be a different situation based on your roster construction. It's totally just going off of matchups. Coach, anything you want to add?
No, and I think it's interesting that you're not playing Kittle. Is that more to do with the injury coming in, or is that more Pittsburgh against tight end position, or you just feel like, hey, because typically if you're drafting Kittle, you took him as a top 5 tight end, right? So you're probably in a position where you got to play him. And you're just saying you don't really love the matchup for George Kittle, right?
It's the matchup, but I also a little concerned about the injury because he has been banged up. So
and a groin,
I guess again, if I have Kittle, most likely if he's playing, I have to play him. Yeah. Moving on, Tennessee Titans at New Orleans Saints. I have got Tennessee winning 27-21. I feel like this is one of Mike Vrabel's games where they come in and they kind of pull off a win that nobody expects them to do.
Yeah, this is a tough game for me. I went back and forth quite a bit because I think Mike Vrabel does a tremendous job coaching that Tennessee Titans team. You got Derrick Henry healthy. I like Tajay Spears as the RB2 in that offense. I think that's an upgrade from where they've been in the RB2 position over the last couple of years. But I took the Saints 24-21. I just think that Derek Carr's got a point to prove. We all know what happened in Vegas last year. You get Michael Thomas back, who appears to be fully healthy right now. You've got Chris Olave, has an opportunity to be a top end wide receiver this year in terms of a target perspective. It just comes down to how often he can find the end zone. We like Juwan Johnson. We've talked about him in our past shows. So yeah, I've got the Saints winning this one, but I think it's going to be very, very close. It comes down to the end. As far as starts go, you're starting Derrick Henry. If he's on your roster, you're starting him. Another guy's going to get you 300 plus touches. He's one of the few 3-down running backs that is an absolute workhorse. He does it every year. I don't care how old he is. Until the wheels fall off, you're starting Derrick Henry, and he's going to die on your bench. DeAndre Hopkins, game one, obviously with them. I think that's a huge benefit to Ryan Tannehill. You have somebody with some verticality that can make some plays on contested catches and has a full route tree. And then you got Treylon Burks to complement him. I'm not playing Treylon Burks or Nick Westbrook, Ikine, or Chig Okonkwo as far as I must start. I do think Okonkwo has some upside. I want to see what Treylon Burks looks like in this offense. But so only starts for me are Derrick Henry and DeAndre Hopkins that I think are non-negotiable. As far as on the other side of the ball with the Saints, I like Derek Carr, I like Chris Olave, and I like Jamal Williams with the Kamara suspension. Kendre Miller is battling some hamstring issues. Looks like he may be out. And then Kirk Merritt, former wide receiver, trying to make a way if he has to as emergency running back. He's got no NFL carries. And, of course, I think Taysom Hill could be involved in short yards and goal line situations, whether that's lined up as a quarterback with quarterback runs or if it's lined up in the backfield as a running back or as an H-back on sweeps. I think they're going to get Taysom Hill involved. So I only trust Derek Carr, Olave, and Jamal Williams. Williams may give you 20 carries for only 65 yards, but he could find the end zone once or twice. So I think if you got Jamal Williams, I think he's a good play. As far as sits go, already went through that for Tennessee with Westbrook, Line, Burks, Chig. I'm not really playing those guys. And then for the Saints, Rashid Shaheed, I just think he becomes the odd man out. It's not that I don't like the talent, but I think he becomes the odd man out in this offense with the return of Michael Thomas and the emergence of Chris Olave. I just don't trust anybody else outside of those two from a pass catching perspective in the wide receiver room. What do you think?
I would add one. The only one I would add is Juwan Johnson as a start.
Yeah.
And I'm starting him because I really feel like they really connected well, both Carr and Juwan all summer long. And I feel like he's going to be an integral part of the offense. So I would start him. Let's move on to the 125 slate. Las Vegas Raiders at the Denver Broncos. I've got the Broncos winning 17-14. How do you have it go, Coach?
I've got the Broncos winning 22-17. We both have them on the under, which is 43.5. Denver's obviously at -3.5. Yeah, I think Broncos 22-17 in this one. So we're on the same page there.
Start and sits. Here we go. Let's get right into it. For Denver, I know this might surprise some people, but I like Russell Wilson. I like Courtland Sutton. And of the two backs, I'm going to go with P. Ryan this week. I feel like P. Ryan is going to be more involved in the passing game. Again, not sure exactly what we have with Javonte Williams and injury. Yes, they're talking about how he has made an incredible recovery. But until I see it, I'd rather have P. Ryan this week. For starts for Las Vegas, I'm a big fan of Josh Jacobs. Feel like he got back in plenty of time to be an integral part of the offense. And I also like Devontae Adams. It doesn't seem to matter who's throwing him the ball. The guy just finds a way to produce every year. Sits for Denver, I'm sitting Javonte and I'm sitting Greg Dulcich. Las Vegas, I'm sitting Jimmy G and I'm sitting Jacoby Myers. Coach, you got anything you agree, disagree with there?
No, I think he nailed it. I think it's going to be interesting to see from the Raiders' perspective. I'm curious to see how Devontae Adams and Jimmy Garoppolo and what that's going to look like. Devontae Adams is a guy that's proven he's not quarterback dependent. He's had some other quarterbacks he's had to play for when guys go down. But I'm interested to see what the target share is there. You've got a pretty good corner over there on the other side of the ball in Denver. So Patrick Surtain's going to follow him around. That's going to be an interesting matchup to watch. But no, I think you nailed it.
All right, let's move on to the Philadelphia Eagles at the New England Patriots. I've got Philadelphia winning 31-21. This is a game where at the halftime they're going to recognize Tom Brady. I'm not sure if that's going to have any impact on, the game. But regardless, who do you like and who do you like for start and sits? I'm guessing there's going to be a lot of starts for Philadelphia.
I think the impact to Tom Brady is the Patriot fans at halftime wishing he was coming out of the locker room to start the second half at quarterback. All right.
There you go.
I think there you go. But I've got Philadelphia winning 27-17. It may not be that close, but it's Bill Belichick coach team. He usually finds a way to keep them in the game. Starts Philadelphia, Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. No surprises there. I think the running back room, I like the talent of Swift. I like the talent of Rashad Penny between the tackles, what he's done over his career in terms of yards per carry every year. But then you got Boston. It's a four-headed monster in that backfield. So I'm staying away from that backfield until I feel like there's some sort of some sort of 3 or 4 game stretch. We kind of get to look at usage, and then maybe we can take a look and see where we're at there. But I just don't trust those guys. And of course, Jalen Hurts will take carries away there. New England, I like Ramondre Stevenson. He is expected to play after an absence. There was some curiosity when he missed practice on Friday, what was going on there. It turns out it was just a stomach bug. He looks like he's good to go. He's the only option in this offense that I'm confident starting this week. I expect a negative game script. And if that forces New England to have to throw the football more, I do think what you could see Zeke Elliott. Let's see what that looks like, right? We get to see these offseason videos every year of Zeke Elliott and how great he looks in a pair of shorts and doing cone drills. Every NFL athlete can do those, and they can do them at a very high level. At the end of the day, when the pads come on, let's see what we get. He's a guy that can get you 10 to 12 touchdowns if they use him the way that I think they're going to use him this year. But I think between the 20s, you're not going to see a whole lot there. But as far as the sits go, I've got Philadelphia. I'm avoiding the backfield. I told you that already. And then from New England's perspective, everybody not named Ramondre Stevenson. Is it Hunter Henry? What are we doing there with the 2 tight ends they've got there? I don't know. I'm not going to gamble, try to pick one. I believed fully when Jonnu Smith was traded based on what he did after the catch when he was with the Titans, he was going to get a chance to be the guy. They weren't. It went Hunter Henry, and they went Hunter Henry by a lot. So I just don't trust anybody there outside of Ramondre Stevenson. He can give you something in the passing game. He can give you something in the run game.
I think that's going to be a theme for much of the year. Yeah. Anybody not named Ramondre Stevenson. Another team that's going to be anybody but their running back, Los Angeles Rams at the Seattle Seahawks. I got the Seahawks winning 32-20. How do you see this game being played out, Coach?
Yeah, I've got Seahawks 30-13. No Cooper Kupp. I think it's a Tyler Higbee game, and you'll get to your start sits. But this is a game where I think Tyler Higbee becomes a guy that should see 10 to 12 targets. He's usually pretty good at the catch rate. It's just what's he going to get in terms of yards after the catch. But I think if you got Tyler Higbee, especially if you have Mark Andrews and some of these other tight ends that are banged up, that's a great play, I think, for if you've got Tyler Higbee on your roster.
There you go. Let's go over all the start sits for this one. Seattle, I like Geno. I like Kenneth Walker. I like DK Metcalf. And I like Tyler Lockett. Los Angeles, you already mentioned him, but definitely like Tyler Higbee. And I like Cam Akers. Sits for me until I see how this offense is going to be worked. I kind of going to sit Jackson Smith-Njigba this week and Zach Charbonnet. Love both of their talents. Can't wait to see exactly what the role is going to be. For Los Angeles, we're sitting anybody. We're sitting Stafford, all the pass catchers not named Higbee. So that one's kind of pretty clear cut for me. Moving on, Miami Dolphins at Los Angeles Chargers. I got the Dolphins in an upset winning 31-28. How do you see it, Coach?
Yeah, this was a tough one too. I went back and forth on. I'm going to go with the Chargers. Yes, I'm a Kellen Moore fan. I think you look at what Kellen Moore did with Dallas. Obviously, he struggled in the playoffs to make adjustments over the last couple of years against San Francisco, but he's always had a top 10 offense, top 5 offense. Quarterbacks have always been very relevant in that offense. I think Justin Herbert is due to have a massive season this year. I think Mike Williams is finally coming in this season healthy. Week 1, Keenan Allen is going to continue to be your security blanket. And of course, I think Gerald Everett's being underrated by a lot of people too. So I've got Chargers 28-24. I think it just becomes too much for Miami. I know that's a big one, but I want to see how Tua is when he gets hit the first couple times and see how he reacts. But as far as starts go, I do have Tua Tagovailoa. I love Raheem Mostert this week. I was not big on him in the offseason, but that was part of the Jeff Wilson injury and then Devon Achane having the shoulder issues. You're not going to get much out of Salvon Ahmed. I think everybody wants him to be something, but I don't see it. But I do think Tua Tagovailoa, Raheem Mostert, obviously you're starting Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. I expect this to be a high-scoring game. If Achane is fully healthy, the game stays close, I think you could see him get involved in the passing game. He does give you, and you and I have talked about this, he gives you more between the tackles. I think people realize because they want to look at the size. But Achane's a guy that I would love to see do something this week. For the Chargers, as far as starts go, I've got Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. That's obvious. I don't know. What I'm curious to see this week is what are the splits going to be between Josh Palmer and Quentin Johnson. They're staying in 3 receiver sets. Josh Palmer's been getting more of the run. I want to see what that's going to look like. I wasn't high on Quentin Johnson as a prospect, as high as some others, but I did love his landing spot. So he did move up my rookie rankings a little bit, but until he gets utilized in this offense, I think you got to kind of temper expectations. But Miami does not have Jalen Ramsey. You've got Eli Apple, who will play opposite Xavier Howard. I expect him to attack Eli Apple all day long, depending on who that matchup is. So you could see some targets there. As far as sits, any pass catcher outside of Wall and Hill. Your tight ends are Durham Smythe, Tyler Croft, and then you've got Braxton Berrios and Cedric Wilson Jr. as your wide receiver 3. So I'm staying away from those guys. And then for the Chargers, again, Josh Palmer and Quentin Johnson. I don't know what that split's going to look like, so I'm staying away from those guys as well. Gerald Everett, to me, does have appealing upside. It's another guy, if you have Mark Andrews or some of these other running backs that are not going to be playing this week, I think Gerald Everett has a great option as the fourth option in this offense behind Eckler, Williams, and Keenan Allen. But I think it's going to be fun to watch what Kellen Moore does. And if you look at historically, now he's had Jason Witten and he's had Dalton Schultz, but tight end's been very relevant in the Kellen Moore offense. So I think Gerald Everett's going to give you more this year than I think some people think. What are your thoughts?
I like Gerald Everett as well, and this game is just going to be fun to watch. I mean, we talk about two teams that have a offense that you want to be a part of. This is definitely one of those games, so I'm looking forward to seeing it. Let's move on. Another game that I'm really looking forward to see. In fact, before we went on air, I made sure I recorded it. That's Green Bay Packers at Chicago Bears. I've got Green Bay winning 24-17. How do you see it play out?
I've got Chicago in an upset. This is it's in Chicago. There's been a lot of DJ Moore, Justin Fields. I think DJ Moore's a huge addition to there. We saw what he did in the preseason on limited touches in the screen game. He took one to the house over 60 yards. I think Khalil Herbert's going to have a good year this year. So I've got Chicago upsetting Green Bay 24-21. It's funny. There's a Green Bay fan, a couple of Green Bay fans at work, and it's they're almost, it's funny, they're big on Jordan Love, but then you talk to people on the opposing side that are Bears fans, which my father-in-law is, and he was like, God, I really want to see, not against Chicago, but I would love to see Green Bay do well with Jordan Love without Aaron Rodgers. That's how much the hate is for Aaron Rodgers. They want Green Bay to do well when they don't play against Chicago, just so they feel like in some way they're sticking it to Aaron Rodgers and saying, yeah, you weren't all that. But I take Chicago. There's always upsets in week 1. So this is one of my upsets this week.
You can't fault it, especially with the way Green Bay's coming into this game. We'll get into that now with the start and sits. Starts for Chicago, it's Justin Fields. Anytime, I don't care if he hasn't improved at the passing game. You saw what he does with his legs. If you're a fantasy manager, all you care about are points scored, and he scores a lot of points. I like Khalil Herbert, and I like DJ Moore. So those are my 3 must starts for Chicago. For Green Bay, I like Aaron Jones. I like even A.J. Dillon in this game, and I like Luke Musgrave. I'm sitting Darnell Mooney and Cole Kmet, and I'm also sitting Jordan Love and Romeo Doubs. We don't know yet what we're going to get with Romeo with his health. We know there's no Christian Watson. Kind of a sleeper pick to start for me is definitely Jalen Reed. I've been high on him from day one. And you talk about the most you want, the thing that you want the most for your young players is opportunity. He's certainly going to get opportunity today. And so those are my starts to sit for Chicago and Green Bay.
Yeah, I would love to see 2 players I'm really interested in watching this game is Jaden Reed and Luke Musgrave. I think Luke Musgrave, extremely athletic tight end, didn't see a lot of touches throughout college, but battled some injuries. But I think Luke Musgrave athletically gives you everything that you want. And I think it's different for Green Bay, who for several years went through some tight ends over there that weren't real mobile, more bigger targets. And now you're going to get a guy that's very athletic. So I like to see what, not only he's going to be in there a lot, but I want to see how often he is targeted in this offense this week. And of course, Jaden Reed, if Doubs is out, Watson out, then I think there's an opportunity there for him too.
Yeah, there's definitely a huge opportunity for Musgrave this week. Let's go to the 5:00 Sunday night football game tonight. NBC, Dallas Cowboys at New York Giants. I'm sure this is going to upset you, but I have the Giants winning 28 to Dallas 21.
Yeah, hey, you're not the only one. And if I was a Cowboys fan, if I didn't say I was nervous going into this game, I'd be lying. Mike McCarthy takes over play calling duties. He's given Dak Prescott a lot of freedom to make calls. Dak Prescott's called the last 2 preseason games as the offensive coordinator because Mike McCarthy wants him to feel like, hey, this is your offense. Yes, we have plays built in for every play, and there's 1 to 3 options on every play, but you're going to be the only one ultimately calling that. So it'll be interesting to see what that looks like. I've got Dallas 27-23. I think this game is very close. Dallas is going for their 5th straight win against New York, and they've won 11 of the last 12. But you can throw statistics out the window sometimes in these divisional matchups. As far as starts go, I've got Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, and Tony Pollard. After Tony Pollard, Rico Dowdle and Deuce Vaughn. Deuce Vaughn's exciting, but he's 5'5". I think he's obviously going to get some touches, but at the same time, Tony Pollard should dominate that backfield. Those are three guys I'm very confident starting this week. Brandon Cooks over Michael Gallup is the wide receiver too. I don't think that surprises anybody, but I want to see how the pass game distribution looks this week. I think Jacob Ferguson gets involved. So Prescott and CeeDee Lamb, Pollard are the only starts I've got there. On the Giants side of the ball, Saquon Barkley, if Darren Waller's playing, you're plugging him into your lineup. It sounds like he's going to be a go at this point. So if he is, I think he could lead that team in targets and receptions this year. And I do like Daniel Jones in this matchup. I think Dallas's front seven and what they've done in the back end and that secondary, bringing Stephon Gilmore in. Micah Parsons has been an absolute beast. We've seen him manhandle Tyron Smith, and that's a future Hall of Famer during the preseason. But I think Daniel Jones, what he can give you with his legs, he's a play for me this week as well. As far as sits go, I'm sitting Michael Gallup. I know, understand he's over a year removed from the ACL, but I still think he's a wide receiver 3 in this offense. And then for the Giants, I'm sitting the entire Giants wide receiver room. I just, outside of Darren Waller, I like Isaiah Hodgins. I do. But then you've got Darius Slayton, you got Paris Campbell, you got Jalen Hyatt, you got Sterling Shepard, Wan'Dale Robinson is out. It's like a mixture of a lot of the same type of guys. I think the only guy that stands out that's any different is Jalen Hyatt with the verticality. But I think Isaiah Hodgins becomes that wide receiver 1 in this game, but not enough for me to trust putting him in the starting lineup. So he's a sit for me.
I tell you what, one person I'm going to be heartbroken doesn't play, and that's Waller, because I killed him as far as picking him as many times as I could in redraft this year. That's a big loss if he's not in there for the Giants. So let's move on to the Monday Night Football game. Buffalo Bills at New York Jets. I've got Jets winning 31-28. How about you, Coach?
Wow. We both picked the Jets. I've got Jets 24-23. I think they kick a field goal at the end of the game to win it. Aaron Rodgers, it's almost like Tom Brady leaving New England, going to Tampa Bay, and then win a Super Bowl in their first year. I'm not calling the Jets win the Super Bowl. But I think what Aaron Rodgers has brought to that locker room with how often he is hanging out with guys outside of, the stadium and really wanting to bond with these guys, and he's been doing it all summer long. I think there's a script here, and I think the Jets are going to have a great season this year. And I think week 1, you get the upset over the Buffalo Bills. Love it, man.
All right, let's jump into the starting sits for both squads. Let's go Buffalo starting. I'm starting James Cook. I'm starting Stephon Diggs. I'm starting Josh Allen. Not quite ready to start Dalton Kincaid. One of the reasons why I'm starting Luke Musgrave is essentially the injuries for Green Bay this week. But for a rookie tight end, I kind of want to see a little bit before I put him in. For the Jets, I'm starting Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson. I'm sitting. Look, we just got done talking to Cameron about starting Breece Hall. Yeah, if I have to start Breece Hall, I'm starting him without much issues. But if I can wait and see approach, I'd rather do that. And if your name's not Garrett Wilson, I'm not looking to playing you as far as if you're a receiver or tight end for the Jets.
Did you take Breece Hall over Antonio Gibson with Cameron's question? I'm trying to remember.
I did.
Yeah. And I would do the same thing. I would take Breece Hall there too. I understand the limitations on the potential snap count, but Dalvin Cook there's going to be, I expect sort of a 50-50 share there, but I think Breece Hall gives you enough receptions there. Antonio Gibson, I think with the matchup with Arizona, I just think Washington can run away with this one, and you're going to lose a lot of Brian Robinson. Antonio Gibson may not have to be used as much in the passing game as we would like. I would lean Breece Hall there too, but that's a close one, man. But yeah, that's I love the fact we both took the Jets over Buffalo in this one.
I just love the fact that we're done talking. It's time to just sit back. You got your YouTube TV working. I've got mine working. And it's time to just sit back and enjoy the games. Appreciate you guys all that tuned in. Remember, we're back live Wednesday night, 7 p.m. We'll recap week 1. We'll also give you a preview for Thursday night's game. And then we'll be back here next Sunday morning as well. Coach, appreciate you as always. And can't wait to shoot some text messages back and forth throughout the day.
We will be active. If anybody has any questions before the NFL kicks off or even for the afternoon slate, you can reach me at Coach Bruce 122. And you can reach Brett at Brett L. Pape on Twitter. We're more than happy to answer your start and sit questions there too.
All right, everyone. Have a great day. First weekend in football. Enjoy.